Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe Muro. And now, here's Zoe.
Hello, folks. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Excuse me for a moment. I have a problem with my background here. Okay, there we go. And yes, it is clear that that is an imaginary background. I, however, am not imaginary. I am the real deal. My name is Zoe. I'm a licensed practitioner here on the New Thought Media Network, and I am honored and delighted, as always, to spend this time with you. Today, we are here to celebrate one of the most magnificent things that there is, which is choice, your creative superpower. And the way that we celebrate that is by exploring the topic. We are here each Thursday from 11 a.m. Pacific time, which is 12 noon Mountain Time, coming to you from Oakland, California. So if this is your first time here, welcome. And if you're coming back, it's so good to see you here again. Hello, Shay. Good afternoon from Colorado. Yes, indeed. Hope you're having better weather than we are here. So, I am a religious science practitioner, as I mentioned, here with the New Thought Media Network. I'm also a transformational coach. And so my mission as a coach and my ministry as a practitioner are the same. They're both to help people live their lives to the fullest. Oh. We have Fiona. Fiona is a practitioner here on the New Thought Media Network, and she is an absolute powerhouse. Just a magnificent, wonderful spirit. And she's in Geneva. So when I say we are worldwide, we are indeed worldwide. Okay, so what are we doing today? Today, we are going to explore the relationship between choice and flow. Okay, so this is episode 79, Choice and Flow. So let me bring this up first. Okay. Now, flow is often described as the movement of something, whether it's water, air, electricity, whatever it might be, in a steady, continuous stream. Or flow can be to proceed or be produced smoothly, continuously, and effortlessly. Okay. But there's a nuance to flow that goes beyond simple movement, specifically the last words there. Proceed or be produced smoothly, continuously, and effortlessly. You know, we actually do speak of flow many times, in many ways in life. Writers and artists are always delighted to find themselves in the flow where their creativity soars and the words and the images come easily to them. Musicians are particularly fond of flow. Get together to jam, and the most unexpected music is created. Athletes thrive on flow. As a runner, this is one I certainly got, to just get into that strong but comfortable cadence and feel how each stride effortlessly flows into the next. For me, it's an uncommon but highly desirable state. Uncommon when I'm running, that is. In a more sophisticated view, I want to turn to positive psychology. Let me bring this up. Positive psychology is the study of the conditions that contribute to the optimal functioning of people, groups, and institutions with the aim to improve quality of life. Now, why is that important? It's important because when we look at flow as defined by positive psychology, get some interesting concepts in here. Let me bring this one up. So in positive psychology, when they speak of flow, they say the mental state in which a person performing some activity is fully immersed in a feeling of energized focus, full involvement, and enjoyment in the process of the activity. Okay. Pretty good, huh? I think it's really worth taking a little more time to look at descriptions of flow because they do contain important distinctions. And those distinctions can help us explore the benefits and even the potential drawbacks of flow. Okay. So, case in point, there's a Hungarian-American psychologist who goes by the name of Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Took me a long time to learn how to pronounce this man's name. And he characterized flow in this way. Bring this up. Okay, so this is from Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. He says, a merging of action and awareness, a loss of self-consciousness, and a feeling of effortless concentration. Goes on to say that flow experiences typically occur when individuals are engaged in activities that challenge their skills while also matching their level of expertise. Okay, now, as I said, this is the gentleman who actually coined this term. So there's a whole lot more involved here than simply moving continuously and easily, to say the least. Whether we're looking at flow from a physical or a mental perspective, flow isn't something that we actually choose. Right? I'm not saying that we can't influence flow. We absolutely can and should, because it does indeed benefit us significantly. Okay. So I'm always looking for that first choice whenever I talk about any of these topics. And I'd say it could be either that you've read or heard about flow and you've chosen to learn about it, or you've experienced it and want to experience it as often as possible. If we consider the characteristics of flow, we can associate specific actions towards achieving flow more clearly, right? So we can make choices, right, that will in fact help us achieve flow. Let me bring this up. Just a few ideas. So for example, as we reduce and eliminate distractions, we can enhance our concentration, we can increase awareness. When we create clear, well-defined goals, we can actually get valuable feedback from the outcome of those. And when I say clear, well-defined goals, there is quite a bit that goes into that. I've done a couple of shows about goals, and it's one of my practices. It's one of the things that I work with quite extensively with people. But when you have goals that are measurable, when you have goals that you can actually understand the details and see how they fit together and how they support you, that provides tremendous, tremendous information, and therefore enables you to make better choices going forward. And with that feedback, achieving, learning, understanding, that feedback provides you with greater information and enables the next step, ensuring that your skills can match the task at hand. By doing that, you optimize your challenges. All of these things, all of these are going to provide us with the ability to make more conscious, deliberate choices, which of course is going to give us an increased sense of agency and control. Right? If there's one thing that flow most certainly brings about, it's a sense of self-efficacy, that ability and that understanding of what we're capable of. Okay. So these are just a few things that can promote or enhance flow. There certainly are many of them. The very fact that you consciously choose to do something makes it easier to achieve flow. Think about it. If you're simply doing what you need to do to complete a task and you didn't choose that task, even more so if it's a task you would not willingly have taken on if you weren't required to do so, odds are you're not completely present to the moment, right? Because you're likely expending energy, being irritated by having to do the work in the first place, thinking more about what you'd rather be doing or what you might do next, right? Given that flow requires focus and attention, choosing to increase our ability to be present to the moment is a skill that's well worth developing and continually honing. Before I get to the next point, I actually will bring up this comment from your doula for grief, aka Bonnie Gonzalez. Bonnie brings up actually the next point that I was going to get into. She said meditation brings about a positive flow of energy for her, and so does laughter. I feel in the flow. I hear you. It's that energetic resonance, right? The ability to feel from within and how that literally bubbles up. Thank you, Bonnie. Now, Shay says that flow, go with the flow is her motto for 2024. I'll have something to say about that phrase, go with the flow, a little bit later. Semantics, but we'll get into it. All right. So, as our doula for grief, Bonnie mentioned, meditation. There's also contemplation. The difference between them being that meditation is a practice that focuses on clearing the mind, right? While contemplation is actually more analytical or reflective. And it involves thinking deeply about something. So either meditation or contemplation can be a tremendous tool for bringing you into flow. I think meditation has a tendency to work better for some people. Reason being that if it's something you're familiar with, it's a good starting point. It's a good stepping off place. Personally, when it comes to meditation, I've never been big on the empty mind concept, the idea that you can clear the mind of thoughts and therefore remove distractions. Right? That's certainly one way to interpret it. But another way to look at that is that we're seeking order and calm as opposed to chaos. So, and this is me talking about how I approach meditation. Okay, so your approach might be very, very different. For me, it's more about clarity of mind than it is blankness. And clarity, without a doubt, aids in the practice of flow. Okay. Now, I want to point out here that there is a difference between being in the flow and simply being obsessed or stuck with something. I shouldn't say simply, because obviously, if you're obsessed or stuck, it's not a simple situation. But just because you have your head down and you're focusing on just one thing, one thought, one idea, one circumstance or condition, that does not necessarily mean that you're in the flow. Well, I mean, to be perfectly honest, I suppose you could think of it as being in the flow, but as one of my mentors used to say, and how is that working for you? Right. If you find yourself focusing so heavily on something, getting so wrapped up in it that everything else just falls away and you're getting nothing done, that's a good indication that there might be something for you to look at there. Okay. A significant distinction between these is that if you're hyper-focused, that requires that you be completely, totally interested in whatever it is that you're doing. But flow can happen with any task, as long as you find it challenging, engaging, or rewarding. Right. Another distinction between them, simply being hyper-focused and being in the flow, think of the outcome. Oftentimes when people are hyper-focused, they find themselves in pretty much the exact same place they started, regardless of the effort expended. Right? In essence, they're going around and around in this tight little track. The flow, on the other hand, there is an energetic movement. There is a resonance that can deliver a beneficial outcome of some sort. Being able to sense when, where, and how your energy goes, and when, where, and how it does not, can give you a very clear indication of flow. Hello, Liz. Mindfulness in action? Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a very, very large component there. Now, I showed you this description of flow before, but I want to highlight it, this last point again, because it presents a facet of flow that brings together elements of awareness, energy, and mindset. Okay. Right, and it's this part right here. The enjoyment in the process of the activity. All right, the enjoyment in the process of the activity. When you have an open mindset, okay, as opposed to a closed or fixed mindset, that's not necessarily a requirement or a prerequisite for flow, but it definitely can either be a contributor or an outcome. Okay. So bear in mind that flow is not a destination in and of itself, nor is it an accomplishment in and of itself. Right? It actually starts as something to be learned, something that can be enhanced. It's a skill. Right? And then the skill can become a repeatable process. And then that process can lead to a state of being. I've seen a dramatic change in my own meditation practice, for example, over the years. I found that being able to reach that level of stillness and focus, that has become a matter of flow for me. As soon as I sit on the cushion, close my eyes, and begin my conscious breathing routine, my body knows to ground itself, finds a place of physical ease, and allows each inhalation and each exhalation to bring me deeper and more fully aware of my inner self. It feels like a familiar path or a well-worn, comfortable sweater. There is a knowing of being fully present to the moment, and a readiness and an openness to receive whatever comes through. When meditation stopped feeling like a chore or simply a line to be crossed off my to-do list, it became a treasured part of starting and ending each day. It became a part of my daily flow. If you recall, when we spoke of actions that you can choose to take, which could enhance your ability to be in flow, we mentioned ensuring that your skill levels match the task or activity at hand. My experience with meditation is a perfect example of that. Once I learned more about how to meditate, what form of meditation worked better for me, time of day, physical setup, all of those things. Once I understood all of that, it actually freed me to be in the flow. Free. That's a perfect word to describe being in the flow. Now, this is something that I wanted to mention. We talk about being in the flow, and there's also the phrase going with the flow. Now, for some people, going with the flow, perfectly good thing. Makes absolute sense to them. Again, a matter of semantics. For me, personally, the term going with the flow carries a certain sense of giving in or capitulating, if you will. Now, there are definitely times when going with the flow is absolutely what I want to do, but never at the expense of my own values or desires. That's definitely not what I'm speaking about here. Pure pressure might be another way to think of it. Okay. As long as we're not talking about that, okay? As long as we're not talking about that, then yes, going with the flow does make perfect sense. Being in the flow is a spiritual act. And of course, by spiritual, I'm not speaking of religion. I'm not even speaking of a philosophy, although either can be spiritual, of course. But I'm referring to anything that has a positive effect on the human spirit. A spiritual act, to be truly effective, will bring about a positive outcome. If you're using a spiritual tool and it causes you stress, choose a different tool. Learn more about the tool you're attempting to use. All right. I like to compare it to running. I love it when I'm running. And when I can find that sweet spot where my level of exertion, my pace, my form, everything's on point. And I am in flow. Now, to say I didn't even come close to that when I was a brand new runner is a gross understatement. As a matter of fact, truth be told, it took me a long time to get to that point. And given that flow is not a destination, If I've had a long layoff from running, it takes a while to get back to that sweet spot, but we're talking days, not years, because I have already created that internal pathway. The more that we do the things that promote a better existence for us, a better experience of life, the easier those things become. The more that we continue to do things that are detrimental to our lives, the easier it becomes to accept that path. We get to choose, right? We get to choose. Oh, let's see. We have a few comments here. Bonnie says, yes, life is to be enjoyed, not just to be endured. Absolutely. Fiona says, being the flow for me is being flow. Yes. I'll get to that in a moment as well. And she says, it's God's flow I'm going with. Row your boat down the stream. And Bonnie again, also that positive flow lives in our muscle memory. Absolutely. So Fiona had mentioned being flow. I most certainly agree with that. Because another consideration regarding flow that became more obvious to me as a runner was that as important as it is to recognize that flow exists, it's equally important to recognize that each of us is part of the flow, right? Each of us. Why is that important? Well, being part of the flow means that it's our natural state to be in flow. But we become doubtful, frightened, angered, etc., etc. And essentially, we forget our truth. In essence, we lose sight of our resources, both human and divine, which leads to feelings of inadequacy, feelings of lack of connection, scarcity. Because of false beliefs or our spiritual forgetfulness, the stifling of our spiritual energy, right? Because of these things, we can close ourselves off from our inherent and our learned abilities and capacity. It's a quote I like that makes this point very well. Let me bring this up. It says, life is like a river. The way of life is to flow with the current. Shay's point. To turn against it takes effort, but the current will carry you if you let it. Float with joy and ease. And it's not just that it takes effort to turn against it, but it's a fight that is not in your best interests. Okay, hardly. And then there's this other quote here from Danielle Laporte, wonderful author. Danielle says, going with the flow is responding to cues from the universe. When you go with the flow, you're surfing life force. It's about wakeful trust and wakeful trust and total collaboration with what's showing up for you. Trust and collaboration. Love it. So let me end this exploration today with this thought. Whether you're floating or surfing, Whether you think of areas in your life where you experience flow and those in which you do not, consider that the work to get to flow will at times be more about what we release or surrender than what we add or decide to engage in. Okay. All right. So, what is on your mind regarding choice and flow? How is this playing out in your life? Is it something that's working well for you, something that you're having difficulty with? I'd like to hear it. Let me know. Okay. So if you have a topic that's relating to choice you'd like to suggest for a future episode, I'd love to hear about that. And you can reach me here at zodemuro@gmail.com. Connect with me for practitioner sessions, coaching, speaking engagements, prayer, discussion, whatever would help. Okay. So today, when you're doing some exploring, I suggest that you explore the New Thought Media Network. We have over 40 hours each week of the most magnificent programming. Oh, has a couple of comments. Oh, thank you, Bonnie. And you're very welcome, Shay. Okay, as I was saying, we have over 40 hours of programming here on the New Thought Media Network, 1 p.m. Mountain Time. Join the delightful Reverend Gina Calvario-Kripke. Her show is called For the Joy is in the Journey. And today's special guest, it's your doula for grief herself, practitioner Bonnie Gonzalez. 2 p.m. Mountain Time. The Vibrant Living Hour with practitioner Ken Ludwig. 4 p.m. Mountain Time, Reverend Brock Ford presents his spiritual toolkit. You know, it's our mission to bring the joy of new thought to the widest audience possible. To do so, we could use your support. So if it's possible, I'd invite you to go to ntmedia.org/donate. Help us make this a world that works for everyone. I look forward to seeing you again soon. And until then, always remember that you have choice. You have choice in how you will live your life. You have choice in what life means to you. You have choice in every instance. Okay. And also, know without a doubt, you are loved. Stay.
Choice, your creative superpower. We have the power to manifest as we dedicate attention to our thoughts, but often miss opportunity to achieve the greatest good. Your superpower is waiting to be unleashed to unlock a fuller, more rewarding world for all. Join us every Thursday at noon Mountain Time for Choice, your creative superpower with Zoe DeMuro.